Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this ParkHouseConnect session. Today, we are going to talk about global citizenship education and how we are preparing our learners for the challenges of the future. This ParkHouseConnect session is going to be led by me, Ms. Kasia Juszczak, Assistant Head of Primary, and Mrs. Olivia Mason, Assistant Head of Key Stage 4 in Secondary School. So, global citizenship education. What is it? We are going to talk today about global citizenship and global citizenship education and how they link together. There's a slight difference in both of them. So we are going to make sure that we all understand what's the difference and what are the similarities. We are going to discuss our context, global citizenship education and Qatar national vision. We are based here in Qatar. We are international school. We've got international students, but we all live here in Qatar. Then we are going to talk about promoting global citizenship at Park House English School, overview across the whole school, so you will have a good detailed overview of what we do and how we do it at Park House. Then the meaning of global citizenship to Park House English School community. We have gathered some views already, and we would like to hear from you as well. And we are going to advise you how you can promote global citizenship among your children at home. So let's move on. So global citizenship and global citizenship education are related concepts, but there are some differences, as I said. So global citizenship is all about our sense of belonging to a global community. It's all about a set of values and beliefs that someone holds. It's a lifelong process. As we grow, as we develop, we start to understand things and see things from different perspectives. Very often we actually can change our ideas and our beliefs depending on our life experiences. And it is a personal and moral concept that goes beyond the academic context, and it encourages promoting peace, justice, and sustainable development for all people. And it links to United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And global citizenship education is education that aims to develop global citizens. So it's a process of learning, and it happens mostly in educational institutions. So children, all learners, develop the knowledge, skills, and attitude associated with global citizenship. It is cross-curricular approach, so it means that it draws on knowledge in all subjects, and it provides a comprehensive understanding of global issues. So we're learning in the context. We try to refer to learners' context so they can understand it better and they can refer to it. It encourages students to become responsible, engaged, and informed global citizens who can face the challenges of the future and make a positive impact on the local and global community. So basically, this is the main aim, to prepare all learners to face the challenges of the future. And this is what we want. We want our children to be successful in the future. So our context. So our school context, we are international school here in Qatar, based in Qatar. We've got around, if I remember well, around 70 different nationalities in our school. Lots of languages spoken in our school. So we are actually global school, international school. But we are based here in Qatar, and we do respect and value Qatar's culture, history, and all the values promoted here in Qatar. And actually, they link very, very closely to global citizenship education. And this table represents how actually they overlap. A pink part of the table shows Qatar National Vision 2030. This is what Qatar aims to achieve by 2030. So as you can see, it talks about sustainable economy, improve the quality of life for all citizens and residents of Qatar, so all of us, to protect the environment, and natural resources of Qatar, to invest in education, which links very closely to Sustainable Development Goal 4 of United Nations, high quality of education for all. And it also promotes peace and stability in the region. So again, it links closely to United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And promote national identity based on shared values such as tolerance, respect, and social responsibility, which again, it talks about our local context. However, we have to remember that when we talk about global context, this global context consists on lots of local context. So whenever we try to improve things, we always start from foundations. We always start from our own environment, and then we extend it further. So starting in our homes, school, local community, local environment, and then extending it towards global change. Mrs. Mason, would you like to add anything? I think not, so I'm going to go.
Sorry, thank you, pardon. Good evening, everyone. I'm Olivia Mason, and I'm as Kasia mentioned, I'm the assistant head teacher in the secondary school in Key Stage 4, and I've been being led by Kasia on this global citizenship presentation as well. So from a secondary school perspective and point of view, this is something that is growing throughout the school, and in the secondary school through things such as assemblies, PSHE lessons, form time activities, as well as lesson time, putting a key focus on Qatar national vision and Qatar national identity is something that is really in the forefront of the school. So it's part of building us as global citizens, building the students of global citizens, recognising different cultures, different people from around the globe, but also, as Kash has already mentioned, putting it into our context of living in Qatar and celebrating the cultures and traditions of Qatar as well. So yeah, echoing everything that's been said there.
Okay, thank you, Olivia. So we're going to move to the next slide. And here, at glance, there are just a few points how we actually promote global citizenship and how we implement global citizenship education at Parkhouse English School. Firstly, I would like to say that it's never too early. So when we talk about school, we also talk about nursery, because it's never too early to start talk about things. And as you will see later on during our presentation, that actually there are some concepts which can be discussed with children as young as children in nursery. So we do it through holistic education. So it means that we develop children as whole. We do not only focus on academic skills, but actually we focus on the holistic development of a child. Looking at their well-being, looking at their academic skills, looking at their physical development, all of that, which will make them successful, most of all happy in the future. So we do it through high quality teaching and learning, and adaptive teaching. Our teachers, they try their best to make sure that they address all issues during their lessons, and they address all needs of all pupils. Cross-curricular learning, as I mentioned before, this is something which is actually based in the context. So when the children learn about something in one subject, that knowledge is used across other subjects, so they can refer to something, they can have that really sound foundation for building up their knowledge and skills. Broad and balanced curriculum, we do it by using different techniques and different strategies when we teach our students, or should I rather say how we support the learning, because it's all about the pupils and how they learn, and we support the learning. And promoting soft skills, which is extremely important for promoting global citizenship. So our pride itself, they are all soft skills. They are those skills which are so needed to be successful in the future: responsibility, dedication, perseverance, independence, engagement, all of that. And we do it on a daily basis in every lesson. As you probably have heard from your children very often about pride, and how it is celebrated and promoted in school. And we also promote 21st century competencies such as critical thinking skills and problem solving, not only in maths, because very often it's related to the first link people make is to think about maths when we talk about problem solving. Not only, it's about problem solving in all contexts, in all aspects of life, even with things like having some disagreements in the playground, or deciding about things in class. For example, what are we going to do? So this is something what children learn on daily basis. Creativity, collaboration, all of that, and most of all, cultural awareness through international and Qatari context, and we're going to talk about it a little bit later, how we do it, how we bring it to life. Digital literacy, of course, and leadership through our school council, and we've got lots of initiatives going on in school as well, which we're going to mention later. All of that links to United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which are promoted. We make sure that children are exposed to learning and opportunities which will enable them to be globally competent, if I can say so. So they get knowledge, they get skills, but they also are exposed to values and attitudes which will help them to be successful in the future. Because we have to remember that, especially values and attitudes, children learn through modeling. Children learn from their context, from others. So when we model those values, when we talk about them, when we talk what's right, what's wrong, they really learn from that. And it all links to Council of International Schools model of global citizenship and intercultural learning and inclusive teaching and learning. We are member of CIS, and we are committed to promote that model. And last but not least, Qatar's National Vision 2030. It links to that as well, and it links to all the 4 pillars, the main pillars of Qatar National Vision 2030. I'm going to move to the next slide. So here are the examples, as I mentioned, of bringing global citizenship and intercultural learning to life at Park House. Mrs. Mason, could you talk about it a little bit?
Of course. So these are some examples of how global citizenship and intercultural learning is brought to life in Park House. So some of the key events, the whole school events that are organised by staff, students, and also the parent committee as well. We have things such as Model United Nations, that has been a part of Park House for many years, and local schools as well. And the events themselves are held at pre-COVID Qatar Convention Centre. They also continued during the COVID time online, so that students still have that opportunity to debate into school, also internationally as well. So Model United Nations is one, and again that weaves in those global goals, global sustainability goals as well. We have things such as the Sustainability Week, the Eco Schools, the International Days. We also had many events leading up to the World Cup where students could celebrate their home countries, and students come dressed in their national dress, parade around the school and teach one another. A lot of this comes from students teaching one another and having that sense of pride in where they come from and in their culture, so that they can share that information with one another. Looking at also the Eco Schools project that both the primary school and the secondary school work together on as well. And also things like Languages Day, that the Languages Department leads, celebrating what is the multilingual school that we're in every day, and celebrating those multilingual students during Languages Day. So there's many events that the school are running to celebrate and push that sense of global citizenship throughout the school, both primary and secondary, and they continue throughout the year. Also thinking about how the sixth form students are involved in this. We have sixth form social committees that run events throughout the school year and work alongside events such as National Day. We also have our other events such as Pink Day, Blue Day and Green Day. And all of these events, even though they are celebrating different aspects of life, the fact that they're bringing the school together as a community is what we want the students to experience. That back over to you, Kasia.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So there's something wrong with my microphone. I do apologize about it. It shows that I'm muted. So thank you, Olivia. Yes, and I just wanted to add that also it's the International Days and Language Days and celebrating other cultures. But we also have our charity days, raising awareness day, for example, Pink Day, Blue Day. It is very important part of global citizenship because it's actually teaching our children how we actually show empathy towards others, how we try to help, and how we try to make positive change and positive change to our lives and somebody else's lives. So this is something important to mention as well. And in primary school, okay, I think that my screen is frozen now, so really sorry. Oh, it's working now. So in primary school, we adapted a cross-curricular approach to promoting global citizenship education. Global citizenship and to deliver global citizenship education objectives. So here's an example how we implement sustainable development goals within the primary school curriculum. Those parents, primary parents who joined us, they know that we follow international primary curriculum. All units link to United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and they cover chosen goals. So whenever your children they learn about some topic, we mention sustainable development goals for them. It's very explicit what we are learning about, why we are learning it, how we can make positive change. All the units, they've got also society and international tasks when actually those values and soft skills and 21st century competencies are promoted. So Olivia, back to you now.
So what I'm now going to do, everyone, is I'm going to talk through some examples of how global citizenship is woven through the Key Stage 3 and 4 curriculum in school throughout the different subject areas. So it really does link somewhat to what Kasia was saying earlier on in the presentation when she mentioned this idea of the cross-curricular learning. So I'm going to show you how different subjects, and perhaps subjects that you might not necessarily think would be subjects that could explicitly teach global citizenship, and how they weave this idea into their lessons. The first one that I'm going to share with you has come from our business studies department, and they've shared with us an example of a lesson that they do in their IGCSE study. And it's all about how businesses are becoming more sustainability aware. They are thinking about their responsibility in an ever-changing global market, thinking about fair trade, selling fair trade products, being more eco-friendly, reduce, reuse, recycle, and the students are able to research different companies and how they are doing those things successfully. And I think as we are moving through, we're looking to the future, we all want to be a little bit more eco-conscious, we want to shop at places that are using sustainable methods, for example, reusing, but perhaps buying secondhand clothing, things like that. It's important for the students to see how their role within the business environment, if they were to go on to study business at Key Stage 5 and beyond, how they can become a better global citizen whilst doing it. So I thought that was a really interesting example from the business studies department, and something that we might not necessarily think, oh, of course, that does develop a global citizen, but of course it does, because it's thinking about their footprint on the world through business. And I'm going to talk about economics a little bit later. So if we move on to the next example. The next slide will have an example from English.
Yes, I'm moving. However, there's something. Sorry about that, everyone. Looks like
you can have a chance to have a little look at the tasks on the slides from the business department there whilst we move on to the next. But I do think it's really interesting to see how the students can develop their global citizenship through different lessons. This is an example from a Key Stage 3 English lesson, so that's years 7, 8 and 9, and the students are studying conflict poetry. And this particular poem that they're studying focuses on the idea of identity and who you are. And this is a really interesting poem to give to the students, especially in our context of an international school with students, as Kash has previously mentioned, from up to 70 countries around the world. It's very interesting to have them think about their identity, think about their different cultures, and teach one another. This particular poem is talking about the fact that this poet wants to learn more about his background and be able to share that information. The students will explore this poem, analyse this poem, discuss in class, have debate, and it will all lead up to writing an essay in response to a question on this poem. And within the IGCSE course for English literature, students have to bring in their knowledge of cultural backgrounds, historical knowledge, to give more detail to their analysis. So this is an excellent example of how students are developing their global citizenship, because they're really having to think about identity, cultures, and what that means to them in the context of which they live in Qatar as international students, many of them. So that's a really good example from English.
Miss, can I just add something?
Yeah.
If we talk about English, because I spoke about IPC and how we follow different units and how they link to sustainable development goals. But I just wanted to add as well that it is cross-curricular. So whenever we have a topic, we have a unit, it links to our English as well. So just an example, for example, from year 5 English as well, since we are talking about English, when they were doing one of the units about climate change, and they were learning about persuasive writing and how to write persuasive speech and persuasive letters. They were looking at different global issues, for example, deforestation and climate change, and exploring speeches of David Attenborough and Greta Thunberg. And later on, they were writing their own speeches in the style of David Attenborough, for example. So again, they had to explore the same, like you were talking about exploring those backgrounds of the poet. They had to explore the global issues. They had to learn about the COP conferences and basically be very aware what's going on now and base it in that context. So
great examples, yes. And very, very similar things happening in Key Stage 3 with speech writing as well, looking at Greta, Malala Yousafzai, look at Nelson Mandela, and looking into the backgrounds of these people as well, and how important that context is to what they wrote and how it can impact the students as well in their writing. So very similar.
Yes. And as you can see, it's also that smooth progression from Key Stage 2 later on to Key Stage 3 at Park House.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So if we go on to our next couple of subjects, we've got Key Stage 5 Science. Now, I must admit, everyone, science is not my strongest subject, but I did find these examples provided by the Science Department really interesting, and actually made me think about when I was learning science at school. I wouldn't have thought this is explicitly teaching me to be a global citizen. So the two examples that they provided us with is one about the effects of burning fossil fuels, which obviously is, you know, a huge issue right now in how we proceed with climate change, you know, the different environments, weather's changing, etc. So the fact that students are learning that as part of their A level, you know, these students are you know, they're the academics and the working people of the future, and it's so important that they're learning about those current issues for them as global citizens as they move through their life. So I thought that was a really interesting example. And this term body diversity from Key Stage 5 as well, and this is based on different species and how different species impact their environment. And it's this idea of the circle of life. If you remove one thing from the environment, it impacts the whole community. And you can look at that through the animal kingdom, or you can look at it through us as well. And I thought that was a really interesting example. Something that is a little bit more in my comfort zone for Key Stage 3 and 4 is our drama teacher shared with us what they have been looking at from for how they create their performances. So as part of their IGCSE study, they have to do a practical performance, and they completely develop the performance from scratch on their own, but they do it based on a stimulus. And the stimulus that was chosen was about how the dangers that refugees face when they're fleeing conflicts, and you know, it's so important for students to learn about what is happening globally, what political situations are happening, how that impacts the citizens, and how perhaps they can empathise with that experience, or you know, they might want to further research. But I thought that was a really interesting opportunity for the Key Stage 4 drama students to think about global citizenship and how we can support others less fortunate, which is, you know, a massive thing for them to start developing those skills of empathy, desire to help others, how they can support other communities and other countries, which I thought was really interesting from Key Stage 4, and it requires some quite deep and high level thinking. So for this one, we've got a travel and tourism brochure from Arabic, which talks about other countries, and we've got about this piece of persuasive writing about travel to Spain. Now, obviously, my Arabic reading is probably not up to scratch at the moment, but as you can see, the students are able to compare Western music to Arabic music, and they're looking at modern versus older styles of music and musical instruments. And obviously this is based in the Arabic lessons. So within the Arabic lessons, they will look at all Arabic countries, the whole of the Arab world, and compare and contrast how those other cultures have developed their own styles, developed their own idiosyncrasies within the language, and I thought that was a really interesting piece of work to share, and it will really teach students about the further Arab world and how the different countries and different cultures can work together, their similarities and their differences, through writing, through persuasive writing. We also have a similar one from the Modern Foreign Languages department, and we've got an example from the French and the Spanish teachers. So for the French teachers, they have shared with us a lesson done in Key Stage 5, so with the A-level students, about the benefits of volunteering, which is obviously something that is key for a global citizen, wanting to show empathy, wanting to volunteer, wanting to support and help others. So they've looked at charitable aid, they have looked at learning about other countries in the French-speaking world and what they do to help their citizens, how they show their progress in global citizenship. And then in the Spanish department have shared with us work from Key Stage 3, so from 7, 8 and 9, and obviously the students learn Spanish through primary school, and that continues into the secondary school as well. And this is learning about Spanish festivals, and not just the Spanish festivals that happen in Spain, but also in South America, festivals that happen in Chile and Mexico, and the students can learn about other traditions, and they study other Spanish-speaking countries as well. So it gives them a much more global recognition of language learning. Rather than focusing it on Spain, they can look at it globally and how their language learning could impact them in the future when they travel. We also have an example shared with us by the ICT and Computer Science department. They have shared some work from the Key Stage 3 students, which I think is a really, really important piece of work, and something that the parents who have signed on to this meeting will probably really value, that their children are learning this in school. And it's about cyber safety and security, and looking at their own responsibilities when using online platforms. So whether that be when they're studying online using YouTube, or whether it be when they're using social media, or anything like that, and the importance of their role with keeping their use of the internet safe and sensible, and how their use of the internet can directly impact others through how they use it and if they're using it safely. And that does create a responsible global citizen, knowing that they are using the internet safely and securely, and that they're not going to impact others in a negative way. So I thought that was a really, really important piece of work for them to share, and really made me feel better that the students are learning that in school and getting that message shared regularly. We just have a couple more examples from the secondary school, and the next one is from geography in years 7, 8 and 9. A wide range of subject matter for geography, because obviously geography, you've got physical geography and you've got human geography as well. And the human side, the side of the human geography is really looking at communities, how communities work together, globalization, how we can work, and how we can, our role in the wider world. They've put that they focus on a wide range of world issues across Key Stage 3, and they've given us some examples of report and research tasks that they've covered. They've looked at different areas of the world, how they're changing, how they're developing, how different countries are becoming more conscious of their, for example, carbon footprint, recycling, their role in global warming, business. Geography really did seem to encompass a lot of those issues, and I'm sure Kasia would think that, like, the foundation subjects in the primary school seem to encompass a lot of the global citizenship learning as well.
Yes, that's correct. Through our IPC, yes. So there's a lot of focus on global citizenship in foundation subject.
We also, if we move on just to our last two examples from the secondary school, we've got the Key Stage 3 PSHE lessons, and PSHE is your physical, social and health education, and students cover a wide range of topics and issues in those lessons, and it's an excellent opportunity for them to debate, to research and really get to know themselves and others in those lessons. So we focus on global citizenship explicitly, and we'll do lessons on global citizenship, sustainability, progress in stopping global warming. We look at the global the development goals, and we also look at lessons on things such as third culture children, so children who have their citizenship and their culture is of another country. They're now living in Qatar. They perhaps have parents of different cultures, and how that impacts and develops them as a person, and how they can share that with others and support others in a developing world as an international student. So PSHE is a wonderful lesson to get students talking. And what's excellent is that next year, in next year's school timetable for the secondary school, all students will be accessing PSHE with their form tutors, so that we can share that with the wider school community, which I think is a really important development. I teach PSHE at the moment, and I find it really enjoyable to just listen to the students and listen to their debates and how they are developing as global citizens in those conversations. Finally, our final example from the secondary school is an example from the GCSE, the IGCSE economics department. And the economics department, as well as the business department, are great examples of how global citizenship is taught within the lessons. They're looking at how the economy impacts a global community, how goods and services and their impact, how they buy goods and services, and their impact on the individual community and their needs. So looking at how things are sold across the globe, how it impacts that specific community, how if they didn't have that market, how that would impact the development of the country and the individual citizens. So, and how the global economy impacts everyone, and how the whole globe is linked together through that global economy. So that's a really interesting lesson to see how they can develop their global citizenship and just be more mindful of when they're making a purchase, or when their family are making a purchase, or when they're thinking of finances in the future or going into business, that they need to be mindful of their impact on the globe and their impact on the community as well, which I think is really important for those older students going through IGCSE and into sixth form, for them to really think about who they are and the impact that they want to have on the world, especially if they travel and live in different places. So they were the examples from different subject areas in the secondary school, and I think it's been a really important process to really reflect on how everyone is managing to bring global citizenship into their lessons so seamlessly as well, and the students are getting so much out of that. So they are the examples from the secondary school. Kasia, thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. So yes, as Olivia said, there's a lot of happening, and involving primary and secondary. There's that focus on global citizenship, and very often it's taught discreetly during those lessons, during English lessons and foundation subject lessons like geography, history, humanities in general. But now we really want to make our children aware that actually what we are learning, it is global citizenship and how to be good global citizens. And we will be creating our own definition of global citizenship and a global citizen, our own Park House definition. And therefore, we started gathering views from students and from staff, and parents will be next as well. And here are some examples from primary school. When we had discussions about global citizenship, we had an assembly, and then we had discussion. We used different form of sort of media, how to gather their views, because obviously we have to look at their ages, especially in primary school. We would post different questions in early years in Key Stage 1. And different questions in Key Stage 2, for example. So as you can see, there is an example from Key Stage 1. What is a global citizen? And we were actually really pleasantly surprised, because our children, they gave us really thoughtful answers. They had discussions in their class with the teachers, and then the teachers, they were typing the answers on the Padlet. So they said that it is to be a global citizen, it means to be kind, to be responsible, to put trash in bins. I'm actually using exactly what they said. Be kind and respectful to others. And it came from our year 1 and year 2 pupils. Then in Key Stage 2, it was more like a free discussion and discussion in small groups and in one-to-one and with the teacher. And they were basically jotting down their ideas as mind map. So for Key Stage 2 came up with really good ideas, definitions, what they think what a global citizen is. So, for example, global citizen is someone who looks after the environment, connects with other people, which I thought was very thoughtful. They think about those connections. They've got friends from so many different countries and cultures in their classes, and they constantly think about those connections. A global citizen or global citizen is someone who helps people when they need it. And one child wrote that global citizenship is about peace and justice, which I thought was very, very mature for primary students. But it shows that they absorb what they're exposed to, and even if it's taught discreetly, they really later on they can explain, they can use that knowledge, and they can communicate their thoughts, which is absolutely amazing. And we also pose similar question in secondary school.
Yeah, so what was really interesting when I posted this for the secondary school, I posted a Microsoft form for feedback on all of the students' Microsoft Teams pages. And this was in keys from year 7 to year 13 to get as much feedback from as many students as possible. And the feedback was great. What I found really interesting is when I said, have you heard the term global citizen? We got a 66% of the students who said yes. But what was interesting about it, when I go to the next slide in a moment, is that the students, their feedback was really, really positive. So I've put, if yes, what does it mean? But I've actually included, I also had the question, if no, what do you think it means? And I've combined them all together to look at the feedback from the students. And I've just put it in this keyword cloud here, so you can see quickly. And the feedback was excellent. So even though some of the students put no, I could see when I generated the answers that the students who said no still gave me some amazing examples of what a global citizen is. They just didn't sort of have the term for it, which I thought was really interesting. And they spoke about things like, you know, being a global citizen, working together, coexisting, learning from each other, celebrating, respect. But what's really interesting is Kasia mentioned that the Key Stage 1 students mentioned litter, picking up litter, recycling, being kind, learning about one another. All of those examples came through in the secondary school as well. So it's interesting to think that students, you know, 4 years old are given the same examples as the students, you know, upwards of 18 years old, and they've all got that shared idea of what's important, and important to them is looking after their environment, working together, you know, being kind, being respectful. So I think it's excellent that the school as a whole have got the same idea of what being a global citizen is, and it's this idea of knowing your place in the world, but wanting to know about other people's, how your actions represent you, how to be a good citizen, to learn, thinking about how it impacts the economy, and making a difference to yourself, your own life, and making a difference to others as well. So I thought it was really interesting to see the feedback and how it was so similar to the students in Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 as well. I thought it was really nice. I also asked the students the question on the next slide, how can you give examples of what we do as a school to help us become better global citizens? And they gave some lovely examples of things mentioned earlier in the presentation: the Eco Club, being able to talk to teachers having wanting to learn about them wanting to learn about teachers, that back and forth, having opportunities to go to ECAs, go to clubs, go to MUN, having those additional opportunities to learn in the school day. That being respectful, learning about one another. We give the students those opportunities, whether it's debating in class, whether it's you know, giving them that time to play, you know, football together on the playground, or whatever it is that they're doing to develop those relationships between each other. They also gave some really interesting ideas of things that we could do. They really want to do things, the students, like grow their own plants and things like that, which I think is really interesting, how they want to put their footprint on the world and put their footprint on the school. So it was a really nice activity to just get feedback from the students and have their voice heard. We do have, like the primary school has their school council, we also have a student voice council in the secondary school as well. But it's really interesting to give the students open forum to say what they think, and the feedback was really positive and really heartwarming to hear. And I love that they all want to pick up their litter as well, which is very good.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we also ask our staff, not only teachers, but basically all staff at Park House English School, what the meaning of global citizenship, what it means to them, and again, you know, very similar answers to our students' answers. So it's to be culturally aware, understand others, be mindful of others, giving back to the world. So celebrating differences. So all of that, obviously using different language, more advanced language than our children, but the meaning, the message is the same. And what we would like to do next, we would like to hear from you. What does it mean to be a global citizen to you? So you have been invited via school email, I believe it was sent today, to contribute to that discussion. We are going to create, as we've mentioned before, we are going to create our own global citizenship definition, the one for Park House, the one which will work for us, because we are a very unique environment, international school based here in Qatar, and also, you know, based in that wide world. And we have to remember that lots of our students will leave Qatar at some point, and they have to feel comfortable here in Qatar. They have to contribute to their community here in Qatar, but also they have to remember there's that wider world around, and when they move, they have to extend that contribution further, and therefore be successful in the future. They will be able to face those challenges. So having that our own definition, which we can refer to, be more explicit when we talk about global issues and prepare our children for the future. It is essential to have your views and your feedback on that as well, because every single voice will be taken into account when we are creating that definition. So please, if you haven't done that, participate in that. I wouldn't call it a survey. We just say that we're just gathering views from parents. So please do, and we are very, very excited and to hear from you, and we would really appreciate your participation. So here our summary. So global citizenship is all about awareness, attitudes, and empathy towards others. It means being open to engaging positively with other identities and cultures. And global citizenship education is about preparing all learners to face the challenges of the future and being successful citizens. And there are two diagrams are included in this slide. There are top skills and 21st century competencies, which are quoted by the largest world employers. This is what they are looking for when they're employing new employees, and then those skills, they change, or let's say they change, they are transferable, and you can see that the skills which were quoted in 2015, that they change, and in 2020 they were slightly different. Probably it was because of the COVID situation that so many jobs they had to adapt to online learning. Now we've got remote learning, hybrid learning and work, and 21st century skills, which is not only knowledge, academic knowledge and foundational literacies, it's also competencies and character qualities. So all those values we were talking about, and what our children represent. It's all about our pride, Park House pride, and it's all that lifelong learning and being prepared to learn and to adapt to new situations. So, Miss Mason, would you like to add anything to that? Because it's quite crucial for secondary, especially when we prepare them to leave for the next step in their lives, when they leave secondary school.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to echo everything that's been said there. And when I looked at this, when I looked at these skills the first time, I found it really interesting that in 2020, a couple of the top skills that weren't in there in 2015 were the coordinating with others, which I thought was a really interesting phrase, coordinating with others, which really is so in sync with global citizenship and what we want students to do and be confident doing. And also this idea of emotional intelligence as well. And I thought they were two really interesting additions to the list of skills in 2020, and something that we really do work with our students for them to develop that self-regulation with their emotions, with working with others, with difficult decision making, with perhaps things not going their way first time and having to work through that and try again and have difficult conversations. And I thought they were really interesting new skills, and something that through our teaching of global citizenship we ideally will go on to develop with those for those students. And another point that I wanted to make is I was actually only talking to a parent about this week, and we had a conversation about the fact that many of the students, you know, in school at the moment, you know, from preschool up to sixth form, really, if they go on to university, the jobs that they do in the future might not even exist yet. You know, we might not even know, with the way the world moves and changes and develops and technology develops, the professions we may not even know what they are yet with the way the world changes. So it's our duty to prepare them as a global citizen so that they can adapt, they're agile, they can work with others, respect, be empathetic, develop those skills so that they're ready for that ever-changing world. And I just wanted to mention quickly, some of you may have actually attended it maybe 2 weeks ago. Mrs. Walton did a session on the Unifrog platform, which is a careers platform that is starting off at the moment in Key Stage 5 and 4, but the plan is for it to develop throughout the key stages and in Key Stage 2 as well. And it talks about future careers and what skills students need for those, and they can do quizzes and do reading, watch videos, and it just gives them that additional knowledge for what skills they may need and competencies they may need to develop for this ever-changing world. So yeah, I just thought those 2 points are really interesting that I wanted to mention to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, please watch the video because they are the top skills 2022. So just to echo, the skill number 4 now, it talks about global citizenship, and it's because it's such a vast topic, global citizenship, but it underpins so many different very, very important essential issues and areas which we need to talk about in schools, not only in schools, in our communities, in order to prepare all learners to face those challenges of the future. Because as Ms. said, and it is repeated many times by others, that we don't really know what the future brings, and we have to be ready. And those transferable skills and awareness is extremely important. So here are some ways that parents can promote global citizenship among their children across different age groups, just ideas. So for the youngest one, teaching basic concepts such as sharing kindness, respect for others, talking about it, introduce children to different cultures and languages, then encourage your children to take care of the environment by recycling, conserving energy, like reminding them, put rubbish in the bin. And I think we are really good at that, because it's just it came from early years, from primary, from secondary, and then in primary school, as they grow older, just continue talking about it, especially that they've got friends from different cultures that are based in that international context. Encourage children to think about and discuss global issues such as poverty, for example, and climate change. Help your children develop empathy and sense of social responsibility. So participating in those special days in school, like Pink Day, Blue Day, this is something very important. We always talk about it, why we raise our awareness, who we help, and why. And Miss Mason in secondary school.
Yes, so basically the tips are, or the advice would be, support your child's growing knowledge of global issues. As students become teenagers and they're growing up, they want to make more independent decisions. They do their research. You know, your children will be on their phones, they'll be researching, they'll be reading, watching YouTube videos. So enter into a dialogue with them so that you're showing them that let's have an open conversation about these things. Ask me questions, I'll give you advice, so that, you know, you've got that open conversation between parent and child as they're wanting to learn about the world around them, and try to figure out where they fit with that as well. They can take part in extracurricular activities. The Model United Nations, run by Miss Zainab in the school library, it's very, very popular with the students and gives them an opportunity to do inter-school debate, national, international debate. We do have the ECA debate clubs that are available as well for years 7 and 8. So I'd really encourage, if your child shows an interest in developing those skills, encourage them or send them to one of us to ask questions about how they can get involved. And participate in community service or volunteering opportunities. Or even if it's just to like go to your local park and look at the environment and discuss it together and be there together and have that opportunity. I know that locally there are lots of opportunities for students to get involved with beach cleanups, where groups go out and they'll collect plastic bottles off the beach and things like that. And it just, for those students who are a little bit more eco-aware or are conscious of their efforts in sustainability, or just want to have a conversation about the world they live in, I'd encourage that and share that with them as well, and share your wisdom and your advice.
Yes, and I just wanted to add that there are so many, actually so many events in Doha and in Qatar going on, and you know, just participate in those events, because they're just you know, this is another amazing opportunity to actually learn about things, to discuss things, and visit the museums. Encourage your children to you know, in secondary school they're big enough to go to the museums themselves, because they're amazing museums. They can learn about Qatar, and not only Qatar, about history and culture. And yeah, questions, and I think we've got a few questions, so we will try to answer. So the first question is global citizenship going to be offered as ParkHouse as a single subject, or will it be weaved into other subjects already being taught? I think we partially answered that question. So in primary, it's as I mentioned, it's cross-curricular approach, so it's within those subjects. We talk about it, we promote those values in all subjects based on our IPC unit. So there's always that focus whenever we introduce a new unit in primary. As I mentioned before, it links to some global issues, and we focus on those issues and discuss them, and also sustainable development goals. And then we try to link it with the core subjects, so with English, with maths, So it is taught discreetly. However, more and more we actually mention that, well, actually this is what we're doing now. It's global citizenship. It's to prepare you to be a global citizen. So this is how it looks in primary, and Ms. Mason, in secondary.
So there is an IGCSE course available in global citizenship. It's not something that we teach at the moment, but it is certainly a conversation that has been had and a course that is being looked into. So at the moment, it's not being taught explicitly as a subject, but it's certainly something that has been discussed, and there is a course out there. So as we're in sort of this stage of developing global citizenship in our school, that would be something that we'd be looking to in the future.
Thank you. And another question. So hopefully we answered your question about how it is delivered and how it will be delivered at Park House. And the next question, what does Park House have in mind to expand on its unique definition of global citizenship, how it will help in adding value to the existing curricula for both primary and secondary schools? So I would like to say that we are going to write a definition to link to our mission and vision, Park House School mission and vision. We review it every now and then because the world is changing. So we trying to keep up to date with all the changes and make sure that our curricula meet the needs of the pupils, and our curricula are fit for purpose to prepare our children for that next step in education and next step in life. And that's why we shared with you that World Economic Forum opinions and research data, what skills are needed now, and we thought that this is the next step forward, to have that global citizenship definition, which will be consistent across the school, which will be part of our mission and vision, and so to make sure that it's consistently promoted and delivered in all subjects across primary and secondary schools. So this is our aim, but we are very aware to be successful in it, everybody needs to agree and everybody has to contribute. It has to be our definition. It's not like the teachers are going to sit together and write it. We need to gather all views and make sure that it meets our needs. And it includes all stakeholders, so our students, most of all, it's all about them. They always come first, they're at the center of everything. So our students, parents, our staff, the whole Park House community, and we believe by doing so, it's going to bring us together, and we will make sure that there's that sound foundation for promoting all those values, and in that mutual respect, the, let's say, atmosphere that everybody is heard and everybody contributed, and I think then it's going to be more real and based in the context when we can refer to it when it's ours because we contributed to it. So this is what we have in mind. Ms. Mason, would you like to add anything to this?
Yeah, just one final little point. All I'd say is I think it's really useful for students to have a definition that they can refer and reflect on. So, for example, when they're making a decision, just let me give you a really sort of simple example. Should I pick that litter up or should I not pick that litter up? What's the global citizenship definition? Am I acting in that way? Yes or no? And it's really, really useful for students to have that tangible definition that they can reflect on. Am I behaving in that way? And I think that's another really useful reason to have a definition that links to our mission and vision.
Yes, thank you, Miss. Yes, I do agree. And then I think it's the last, it's rather common than the question. I did the survey before listening to you. Thank you very much. We appreciate it very much. Shame, but I believe that I gave a fairly right answer. There is no right or wrong answer if it comes to global citizenship, because as we mentioned, it can be seen from so many different perspectives. It depends where we're from, you know, what communities we live in. So there's so many different perspectives, and that's why we're asking for your views, because we come from so many different backgrounds. So I'm sure your answer was right, because as I said, there are no wrong answers if it comes to global citizenship. They're just our views, our opinions, and basically formed by the experiences we were exposed to. So I don't think we've got any more questions. So thank you very much for joining us today. I hope that you've got like a clear vision now what we doing at Parkhouse, how we promote global citizenship. As I said, if you haven't done the survey yet, please do. We would appreciate it very much. So thank you for joining. Thank you, Mrs. Mason, for joining in as well, and giving us all that very detailed explanation how it's done in secondary school. Thank you for that, and I hope to see lots of parents joining us for our international events and our special events at school. So thank you very much and have a lovely evening.